Hey, good day, Hersh. How are you doing on the day after an eclipse?
The day after an eclipse. Yeah, I am. I am feeling revealed and open, and I don't know why it did that, but the idea of everybody kind of trying to get aligned. People seem to want to be aligned in the bigger picture. I heard a lot of talk about that. Oh, everything's aligning. We're all one universe. We're one people. We should. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to say yes. We should align ourselves with the world and not just with our own, interest or interest in the moment.
Yeah, there was a lot of interesting energy in the universe due to the solar eclipse. Some of us are more sensitive than others and recognized it, and some of us, it was just a day as usual. However, this brings us to our topic about revealing personality in your marketing and sales. So, would you like to kick us off and begin to develop that concept?
Sure. Well, I said in my post that I asked the question, how does our marketing taste? Like what makes us irresistible to our audience? And it is a word that comes up a lot when we're talking about offers. How do you make Hormozy's $100 million offer? How do you make an offer that's too good to say no to? Well, what I was thinking about for today is how do we create a brand that is impossible to resist, that is too good and too attractive to resist.
Yeah, and that is the whole point of marketing and sales is to create that irresistible brand, to be outstanding, to be unique, to showcase and let your audience know and attract them because of the fact that you stand out and you are unique. Now, I know that what I do to promote my brand is I wear hats. And many people ask me, well, why this color or why hats at all? And my answer is that entrepreneurs wear many hats, and the hat they usually dislike or do not want to own is the hat that is branded with marketing and sales. Have you found that to be true as well?
Oh, for sure, for sure. People don't want to come off as pushy, manipulative, salesy. We resist it. You and I work with a lot of heart centered clients and companies, um, and so it's natural for some of them. I have found totally don't have that hang up about sales, and that's because they are so comfortable in their skin and they know their own ethos and their integrity so well that they don't worry about that issue. So it's not that they're slicker or more polished salespeople. It's just that they don't have any ambiguity about the value they're bringing to their client. And I find that's really instructive to help us get over some of that fear. Um,
Yeah, this worry, maybe that's really more the issue than the actual being aggressive and salesy. Because again, I deal with personality styles and we are a combination of all four styles, just in a different amount. Hence, each style is based upon a set of values, and those values are valuable. They may not be the priority. You may not put priority on that particular value, but nonetheless, you would concede it's valuable. And so things like efficiency and speed and getting results, which often are what associated with that pushy, manipulative salesperson, are valuable, even though we may not like the way that they come across to us. And that's because our values are different.
that's a very good point, and it leads me to ask this question, which is, when you're focusing on when from my point of view, I'm trying to help people, create an irresistible, incomparable personal brand, and that's based on those things that make them so unique. But in your case, they have the opportunity to think about who their audience is and who they want to impress and why, because irresistible to the entire world is not what we're we're after. Can you speak a little bit about that?
I'm glad you said that last point because, again, it is a false notion that we want to be all things to all people. The best result is when we hone in on what we call the buyer persona. Whatever that avatar is, that buyer persona, and we speak to them. And so usually that has to do with ourselves, right? There's something within us that resonates and brings out that part in our audience. Hence, that's the person we want to speak with. And again, if you're true to yourself, true to your brand, you want to message using the language of that avatar. Go ahead and speak to that.
um, yeah, there are subtleties involved in speaking to a certain avatar. I found myself years ago finding ways to communicate with people just instinctively using similar. Somebody would write an email in all lowercase, and I would write back to them in all lowercase. And I wasn't sure until later whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. Am I not being myself? Am I compromising myself? And then I learned later, no, they're just expressing a preference and a comfort level, and you're just making them comfortable. It's like someone who comes into your home and they prefer to keep their jacket on, their coat on, and you're just making them comfortable.
Yeah, I'm smiling because that is a typical area where we get hung up. Is it being inauthentic to go with the other person's style? And in your case, you mentioned, lowercase. And of course, I couldn't help but think of E. E. Cummings. He's a poet, American poet, who always wrote in small letters, never capitalized anything. Uh, you know, that that was his brand. That was his style as a poet. Are we in sync with him when we follow along, or are we inauthentic because this isn't who we are? Yeah, that is a big question that many of us struggle with. And as I share with my clients, when you understand someone's style and you speak their language, there's nothing inauthentic about that. For example, Hersh, one of the things I often talk about is inviting someone for a meal. And if you serve your favorite foods, they may be foods that the other person's allergic to or, is off their food plan. Hence, is it being inauthentic to ask, what would you like to eat? Let me prepare what you want rather than what I want.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I work with a lot of technologists and scientists, and I was surprised to attract that clientele for a while because I felt like I'm not a science person, or I'm not a math person, or I'm not a big brain, or whatever it was. But then I realized, well, they appreciate the ease at which I put them, because they're often struggling to
Yeah.
figure out how to communicate with the layman. They're scientifically oriented, they're detail oriented, and sometimes they're less engaged emotionally with the subject matter. But it's all style. It's just style and presentation. We are so quick to. This is another area that I'm interested in your opinion on. We're so quick to judge the quality and value of people, programs, subjects, topic, everything. Don't you feel that in a way whatever the criteria is, we're doing it a bit rashly?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. It seems to be human nature to judge. And that would take me in a very philosophical line, which probably we don't want to necessarily go into at this moment. But, kind of circling back to the idea of revealing your personality. I think it's so important that in marketing and sales that you not be afraid to disclose who you are. And you don't want to be vanilla. When I wrote my initial post about vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, why not go for Neapolitan? The idea is that many of us, what are we? Who are we? What are we trying to convey? And like an ice cream flavor, don't you want to convey something so that there's specific people who say, I want that? And hence we attract them?
Yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking as you were speaking about, is there another common word, a word that we hear a lot is superpower. We hear the superpower. And at Podfest this year, I did a talk, and superpower was at the heart of it, and it had to do with the fact that the superpower has to come from in here, and it's not just what you're really really good at. It's what you are doing with it to best serve your client or your audience. And I think focus is great. Focus is really important, and it is better, in my opinion, to zero in on one thing that really is special. But it wouldn't be something like my superpower is that I have perfect pitch. You know, even if I'm a singing coach, my superpower would be that I'm able to teach others how to sharpen their pitch, because it's really about what you're doing for the client or the student or the audience, not just something that makes you great. And I think that's a good pointer for people to take home with them.
Yeah, it's definitely about the results that we get, not necessarily the technique. It's about the results. And, we are exchanging energy. When you consult Hersh, when you consult me, when you consult any other individual, what's really happening? It's an exchange of energy. And when that energy is synergistic and it seems to be cumulative, and then everything starts to, it's like coffee perking or, popcorn popping, because there's something exciting that's going on. But if you're just going through the motions because that's what you're supposed to do, or, that's my gift, no, not great things happen.
Yeah, never going through the motions,
Yeah.
always leading with passion, intent, um, all of these things. Intent comes up a lot in humor, in the use of humor.
Mm.
Is if I'm communicating with someone, I tend to wait for some sign of humor from the person I'm corresponding with before I make too much jokes. Or if I'm just learning about them and I'm researching them and they're writing something with a little bit of humor, they make a little joke, they're communicating to us that it's okay to joke with them. And so people give us all kinds of signs, don't they, as
They
to what they would like. Is there a tip? We're kind of coming to the end of our segment, but is there a tip you can kind of leave to help with discerning from a prospect something about their personality?
Well, of course, before I meet with people, I do a reading of their LinkedIn profile or their website or something where I can get a flavor of who they are, so that I know, is this going to be a chatty conversation, a personal conversation, a structured conversation, or a down to earth, let's do the business conversation? They're different strokes for different folks. And hence, it's not a one size fits all. It is a matter of respecting the other person. Their style is probably not identical to yours. If it is, hallelujah, that's a lot of fun, but mostly it's going to be different. And can you embrace and enjoy and use to your advantage that other person's style, because it augments us in good ways?
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I think that that the better we know ourselves, the better we're going to be prepared to greet the person that we're trying to sell to, um, or help. That's my last tidbit today, is always lead with the way you can help somebody, as though this were a friend asking you for a favor. Here's my problem. Can you give me your, like if a friend calls you up and says, hey, I know you're an expert, Nancy, in this area. Can you just, what do I do in this situation? And you're not thinking about the sale or the close. You're thinking about, how can I bring what I do to help this person out in this moment?
Yeah,
Uh, you know,
you're reminding me of what actually happened between us yesterday when you mentioned somebody who had no-showed, and I said, well, let me look up the style. And then I shared with you that the style indicated this person wasn't being disrespectful. They simply were being practical. And
yes,
according to their style, the practicality was this versus that, and they chose that.
yeah, yeah. And it was eye opening. It was so eye opening. And we make
Yeah,
so many
assumption.
judgments in the moment.
Mhm.
And so this, I hope that for those of you listening or watching this recording, that this has been useful, because I think it felt like there was a lot of, you know good insight in there. And certainly from Nancy, hopefully from my own experience. And as always, leave comments, stories, or ideas of what you'd like to hear us talk about in our know and sell pointers in the comments.
All right. And this is Dr. Nancy Zare, the sales whisperer, signing off. And
And Hersh Rephun, the message therapist.